Let me tell you, this is one episode we've talked about a few times, and I am so excited to bring it to you. Why? Because a week ago, I put a couple of pork shoulders and some pork belly in my smoker. And you know, you can't eat all that stuff on the first day. So that means we're gonna do something with leftovers. Are you ready? Okay, let me just start off with saying that obviously you can see we have a ton of meat here. My number one friend to stop food waste and help me with my leftover problem is a vacuum sealer. I mean, this is about a half of a pork shoulder, sealed up nice and tight in the freezer. I could pull it out in a month, a year. It really doesn't matter. If you're gonna do stuff like this, you don't wanna waste food, please, please, please find a way to seal it up nice and airtight, put it in your freezer, so then when you take it out, you've got beautiful meat that looks like this. I mean, shoot, we even cured and smoked our own bacon. How cool is that? Okay, so I've got some macaroni and cheese. I've got some pork with the bark. I've got some pork without the bark, a little barbecue sauce, a little homemade bacon, got some gadgets over here, may even have a little root of ginger. We're gonna do some really crazy things here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this back in the freezer, move some stuff around, and we're gonna do it. Okay, so I'm warming up my hot plate. We wanna go ahead and have a nice hot burner ready to go. I've got my pan. We're just gonna set it right here on the front. This way it's kind of out of the way for right now. So here's the cool thing about pork. Whenever you smoke pork or brisket or really any of the meats, you're gonna get a nice dark bark. That is probably everybody's favorite part. You don't need sauce on it. It's got the nice rub. It's just gonna be the best part. But this nice, soft, tender inside is what really makes the best sandwiches. So you kind of have to do this back and forth. Make sure you have a little bit of bark with a little bit of the soft meat when you're gonna put it into some type of a sandwich. Otherwise, you're gonna miss out on that person that wants one or the other. Give them both. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull some meat out of here. Now this is pulled pork, not to be confused with chopped pork. Pulled has been just smoked and cooked to its absolute tenderness to where you see, you just get these strands, which are gorgeous. If you chop pork, sometimes that's because it's not quite ready. It is a style, a lot of people like it, it's just not my style. For the sandwich, however, I'm gonna do just a quick rough cut because I want pieces that are gonna stand up in the sandwich, but I don't want them so cumbersome that when you take a bite, you pull a big chunk out like that, and you're trying to chew on it with your bread, with your mac and cheese and everything else that goes in it. So we're warming up this pan. I'm gonna pull my ingredients together, and then we're gonna make a macaroni and cheese barbecued grilled cheese sandwich. Yes, my mouth is watering. Get ready. Okay, before I start this, I wanna get a few things at the ready. So I have macaroni and cheese that's left over. It's warmed up in a pan, but it's not hot. Reason being is I want it to stay kind of together as it warms up in the grilled cheese sandwich. If it's already really warm and gooey when it goes in there, it's gonna fall out immediately. We're gonna add some cheese to the sandwich to try and help catch and hold on to it. I've got the meat that I rough chopped. I've got a barbecue sauce right here, which is actually made by my buddy Mike. You know I'm a huge stickler for homemade barbecue sauce, so it doesn't matter if it's my homemade or his homemade. If you need my recipe, I'll go ahead and add the link in the video as well as on the website, thebeardedhomecook.com, just in case you forgot. I've got a couple of different kinds of things going on here for cheese. So I've got some sliced Swiss, because I really like Swiss. It gives you that gooiness that I look for. And I also have a shredded Colby Jack. I am 100% a stickler for shred your own cheese when you're making cream sauces and things of that nature. This is a grilled cheese sandwich. You know what, guys? It's okay to take a little bit of a break on that. I've also got a couple of pieces of Texas toast style bread, heavily buttered, because it's Texas toast. But the nice thing is that when this really, really gets golden brown and everything starts to cook through, the bread on the other side is super moist. And so everything's just gonna come together. And I'm telling you, when you see it finished, you're just gonna lose your mind. So I did not preheat the pan. That's for a very specific reason. I'm gonna pull it over here and start assembling it. I don't want it to cook too fast. So pan is still cold, burner's nice and hot. Let's go time. So here, no sizzle yet because the pan is still warming up. Super, super important. So first thing I'm gonna do is put a slice of Swiss down on one side and start putting some meat on there. Make sure it's a nice, thick, generous amount of meat. You've got tons, it's leftovers. Something in the area of maybe an inch or so thick, all right? Give it a nice little squeeze of sauce. Don't want it to be too much. You want the sauce to be there, but you don't want it to overtake the barbecue that you just spent all this time creating. Then what I like to do is put a little buffer. Put another piece right there, okay? Now to mix it up, we're gonna go ahead and rock some Colby Jack down here. That's gonna really help pull all the macaroni and cheese together in the sandwich, okay? If you don't have all your utensils ready, you're in trouble. So have a spoon, have a spatula, get ready to rock, okay? And see how it's holding its shape? So it's warm, but it's not hot. Super, super critical component. You can warm it in a pan just like this, a nonstick pan, and just stir it around briefly, put it back in a bowl, and just let it sit. Try not to knock all my cheese off. Okay. So I'm gonna wipe my hands off. I'm gonna show you an up close on this so you can see about how my fill is, and then we're gonna watch this puppy cook and eat it. Yes, eat it. Listen to all that beautiful sizzle. Just let it go for a little bit. It will be ready soon. All right, so there is a little trick to this that takes a little bit of work, and we're gonna have to kind of play with it depending on how comfortable you feel. So what I did is I put the Swiss cheese on top of the meat. It's still cold, so it's gonna take a little while to warm up. We wanna put these two halves of the sandwich together so we can do a flip later. We want that radiant heat to come through. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up the barbecue side and flip it onto the mac and cheese. It's bigger pieces, it has sauce and cheese on both sides. That should hold it together. Worst case, a little bit drops off in the pan. Well, that's just a sample. It's all good. So we're gonna go ahead, get a nice angle, hold on to that nice cool cheese, butt the two pieces of bread together so you're not trying to lift it too high, and flip. Oh my gosh. A, sizzle, sizzle, right? B, browning gorgeously. So now I can move this to the middle of the pan where I have the most even heat and just let it finish. Awesome. The cheese is starting to melt on both sides of the barbecue, which means that we've got what we want. You've got little bits of cheese around the edge that have crisped up because they've fallen down and gotten into the pan. Oh my yumminess. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead, flip the other direction. I do not take the entire weight of the sandwich out of the pan as I lift it. I'm actually using the pan as a base for it. If you look at the bottom now, nice golden brown, almost medium brown, my personal preference. I'm gonna go ahead, turn this off, get a plate, cut her open and see what it looks like. Be right back. All right, y'all, that is one gorgeous sandwich. I'm gonna give you a close-up real quick. Are you ready? Of course you were ready. Why would I even ask that? It looks so good. So here's the cool part. We're not done. I still have barbecue for days. So guess what? There's more. How much more? You're just gonna have to wait and see. Did I mention I smoked my own pork belly? Because I think you let that one go right by. So if you have the ability to access some pork belly, which you can get more and more nowadays, you can cure it and smoke it yourself and make ridiculous bacon. Ridiculous. This thing is like over a 1/4 inch thick. Ridiculous. So one of my biggest pet peeves is when you buy bacon in the store and you're cutting through it, you're always sawing with the fat. So I've told you in the past, the trick is go ahead and pop it in your freezer for a little while, let it firm up and then cut it. Well, the cool part is when you do this yourself and then you put it in one of those food saver bags, you're compressing everything, including the fat and the flavor. So this is pretty solid when you think about it. To cut through it, I'm not gonna saw. So I'm gonna go ahead and mince some of this up. And you're probably like, all right, Jim, well, what in the world are you gonna do with pork belly? Are we gonna make bacon and eggs? Nope. We're gonna make waffles, but not just any waffles. We're gonna make leftover waffles. Once you've got some nice browning on here, we're good to go. We're even gonna use some of that fat, so get ready. So when you saw the picture in the pan, you obviously noticed this bacon looks a little bit different. It almost comes across like a ham. That's because it was truly cured and smoked. A lot of bacon that you purchase in the store obviously is done for speed and efficiency. So it may be cured, but you're gonna get a smoke flavor added, and it'll even say smoke flavor on there. If you can find a butcher shop or a food store that has its own great meat selection, you could probably find a smoked bacon and really, really take advantage of this. But if not, hey, guess what? Bacon works. Bacon tastes great. Pork fat rules, as I've heard, right? So we're making waffles. Yeah, see, you didn't see this coming, did you? So I've got some mac and cheese, which you saw. I've got the shredded cheese, again, and now I've got the bacon. So we're gonna give it this ooey gooey in and out kind of thing in a little waffle maker. So put it on medium heat. We're gonna go ahead and spray the inside. We're gonna get some fat off of the cheese and the bacon. Just gonna close it up and let it get back to full temp. And so we're just trying to make sure that nothing sticks to the non-stick surface inside. This still has its fat, this still has its fat, this still has its fat. So I'm not really too concerned about that. So we're gonna let this come back up to where it shows me ready on medium. I'm gonna go ahead and start putting some ingredients in. In the meanwhile, you can think about all the wonderful things you want to make with your leftovers. We'll be right back with this. Got power light, got ready light, which means we're gonna put some stuff in here. Oh yeah, that's hot. So we're just gonna evenly distribute some of the bacon, which is nice and warm still. I'm getting some sizzle. A little more, right? Nothing wrong with a little bit of extra bacon. Then I'm gonna go ahead and start Sprinkle in the cheese. Now this is only on medium, so I warn you, just be sure you're not going a little too heavy on your temperature, because what you're going to end up with is a very dark exterior, and that's not what we want. And as you can see, this is still the same barely room temperature mac and cheese. If it's too hot, you're going to get a very different response. Go ahead and put a little more in there. We still want it to maintain some of the ooey gooiness in the middle, so if it's too hot, it's going to crisp too fast. All right, 2.5 minutes per side. Let's see what it looks like at the end. Fingers crossed. Do not be alarmed if you see a lot of steam coming out after you flip it. That's just some of the moisture finding its way out and some of the heat. You're okay. Okay, after about 5 minutes, go ahead, flip it back if you have one that turns over, and then just slowly lift and look. What we have here, some nice crunch, still soft. I don't recommend you touching this yourself. I just happen to do it all the time, so I don't feel terrible about it. You want to grab a utensil and go ahead, make sure you can get it out. If it's still too soft, put the lid down, go another minute or so. Yep, we're gonna go about 1 more minute, come back to it. What a difference a minute makes. You can actually see the steam, but you don't hear as much of it, which means that now the fats are actually starting to cook the cheese, create a crust. The moisture from inside the macaroni and cheese is still there, but it's a lot less. So the steaming portion has died down. Now we're getting down to that final crust. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this bad boy open, take a look. Oh yeah. I mean, it's got the color of a waffle. Why wouldn't you love it? So I'm gonna go ahead, start pulling this out, turn this power off, and we're gonna plate this puppy. Crunch. As you can see, I've got a little parsley over here as well. And I have some bourbon honey. That's right, aged in bourbon barrels. I'm gonna go ahead, put it on the plate, put the parsley, put the bourbon honey, show you what it looks like, get some of this stuff out of the way. Bourbon barrel aged honey. It's a terrible idea. A little more parsley. Beautiful. But there's one more. Yes, one more left over. And I saved the best for last. So here's something fun for you. If you watch the Best Leftovers Ever show, I made wontons with leftover pulled pork. Hey, imagine that. I'm from North Carolina. What else would you expect from me? So I've got some wonton wrappers, some scallions, some ginger, a little fish sauce. Funny story on that. A little bit of water to wrap them all up. Got my pork, food processor, got a little peeler, got a knife, got all kinds of things. So here's the scoop. Let me just put it out there real fast. Too much moisture inside of wonton or ravioli, any of these sealed types of pastas, if you will, they're gonna make them explode. So you've got to keep your moisture level down. Well, normally you're going to make this with raw shrimp or raw pork, and it's going to steam and cook inside, so it's going to release some juices. So if you're using a leftover, you're actually going to add moisture, and you can hold it back just enough as you add so that you don't have too much, because again, you can't take it back out. So we're going to use the food processor and manage it that way. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start peeling the ginger. I'm going to throw some of these ingredients inside the food processor, and we're going to start to pulse. Something interesting about ginger too is they come in various different heat levels. So you want to adjust with this as you go. Also, if you don't have a potato peeler, because it's just not something you use, you can go as far as using the side of a spoon. I, on the other hand, like to just use my potato peeler, because why not? I'm using the microplane to put it in here, because I want to make sure that there are no big pieces that's going to catch anybody off guard. If it doesn't pulse something totally good, it's okay. But ginger, that's going to bite you. All right, going for right about a teaspoon. And I like with the microplaner that it just drops it right there. You can see exactly how much you got. I'm gonna just run through some of the whites of the scallions just to make it a little bit easier on the processor. In you go. So it's about a teaspoon of ginger, about the whites of 6 scallions. Now we're going to put in roughly 2 cups of pork. Notice how I said roughly? It's just wing it, right? Okay, so what I'm trying to do is get it down to small pieces that are going to go ahead and mold well, but you're still going to have something where you can tell it's pork and not mush. I mean, the last thing you want this to do is cook even further and turn into something that's just a blob. So if you look inside of here, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but like if you took tuna salad and kind of gave it a look, it's broken down into some nice little pieces. So I feel like this is a good spot because I'm gonna add the fish sauce and pulse it just a little bit more, and then I'm gonna mix it by hand. But by adding it in the machine, I know I'm gonna be able to get the right mix. So I'm starting with about a tablespoon. You're like, oh my gosh, Jim, that's a lot. Listen, if you saw the show, I put an entire tablespoon in my mouth. First time I'd ever tried it. Here's a shot. So clearly fish sauce won't kill you because I'm still here, but it does make you make faces. Smells good. Taste. Ooh, I like that. Here's the cool part. If you just reach in the front, pinch, and kind of squeeze it together, does it maintain its shape, which means it has enough moisture. There's moisture in the green onions, there's moisture in the fish sauce, there's still some fat and moisture in the smoked pork. It's just not as much as it was when it was raw, of course. So this is exactly where I want it. I'm gonna put it in a little bowl. I've got my water ready to seal my wontons, put a couple of ingredients away. We're gonna make these puppies. So you might be thinking, Jim, seriously, dude, I don't have a bamboo steamer. You're out of your dang mind. No, you could do this a multitude of ways. You could boil them, you could steam them in a pan. You don't need the bamboo. However, if you like steamed salmon, steamed broccoli for health purposes, this is a great thing for like 10 bucks. If you have a nonstick pan with a firm fitting lid, you can put enough water in the bottom just to cover, and then go ahead and put them in there for about 10 to 12 minutes. Start checking them after 9, pull the lid off as they're close, let the steam dissipate, and then heck, throw in a little bit of butter and some sesame oil. You can even have pan-fried dumplings. So you can go a couple of different ways. I'm gonna use this for convenience, and I'm gonna finish them different than I did in the show. So we're gonna give you an extra little twist, just for fun. So here's the scoop, wonton wrappers. Nice and thin, really not much to them. They're dusted lightly with cornstarch to keep them from sticking, so I've put down non-stick parchment paper. So once I have the completed piece, I can sit it here and pick it back up later on. All right, so what you're gonna do is just pull together, roughly, a 3/4 teaspoon ball of pork. Set it in the middle. Try to keep the edges as clean as possible. Then dip, run your finger down, 2 sides, all right? And then pick it up, dry corner to wet corner. Now, see what I've got? Ends are open, all right? And I'll pull you in closer for this. Do one side, keep your edges nice and snug. Then what I do is I push the filling in, trying to take away the air pocket. And then I seal up the other side. So what I have is this plump little triangle. All right, and I will pull the camera close so you can see these in a minute. However, this isn't how I'm gonna serve them. So then what you do, wet your finger, do your corners, push with your thumb, all right? Create an indent, and then pull it around and seal your corner. That's it, all right? So nice, pretty wonton. I'm gonna hammer a few of these out. I'm even gonna bring the camera in nice and close so you can see kind of the handwork with this. But this is a super, super easy way to do it. If you wanna go a little bit on the Italian side, you can actually do strained ricotta with some meat or some different herbs and do the same thing. Steam them and then serve them with your favorite sauce. I would say in that case, you might wanna go with something that's more Alfredo, just to kind of keep the cheese theme going there. But this is probably the easiest way to wrap these puppies up. A couple bucks here, leftovers. Really, why would you do it? So we're gonna keep making these and I'll bring you in close. Super simple. Place that down, all right? Take your little ball that you've made of the meat, put it in the middle, dap in water, one side, 2 sides, right? Pick it up, dry corner to wet corner, and then just slowly push them together. We talked about moisture on the inside. The moisture you're using to seal it will absolutely be absorbed by the wonton wrapper and the slight bit of cornstarch that's on them, so do not worry. Get as much air out as you can. Squeeze nice. You wanna make sure these puppies hold together, okay? Then we have that pretty triangle. Just gonna indent it. Get a little bit more. Dip, dip. Pull it together. And pinch. It's funny, when you stand them up like this, they actually look like a turkey standing up for Thanksgiving. All right? They don't stand up, I don't care. They're gonna taste great. We're gonna keep going. I'll bring you back when we're ready to hit the steamer. Cool? All right, I've got my steamer ready. I've got my pot ready. So 10-inch saute. This is a 2-layer. Pop the lid off. You can see it allows steam to go through. I like to put them in the higher one, so I leave the 2 on. You do not want to crowd them in there. So by having 2 layers, if you're doing enough for 3 or 4 people, it actually gives you some space. One thing that you're probably going to say to me is, oh, well, Jim, you're supposed to put cabbage in your wontons. And I did on the show, don't you forget that. But we've done so much cabbage here lately between the smoked pork and then the coleslaw. And then, of course, it was just St. Patty's Day with corned beef and the cabbage and the potatoes. I saved some cabbage, but I'm going to use it to put the dumplings on in here so they don't stick to the bottom. If you don't have cabbage for that, you can just use the parchment paper that you just had them on. But cabbage gives you that flavor without hitting all of your guests with cabbage for the 3rd time in about a week. Just me. Okay, got a nice steam. You may also know that in the show, I steamed them with tea. A, it's the South, and B, tea is very Asian. In this case, I'm doing something that's a little bit of a twist, so I'm gonna go ahead and steam them on chicken stock. Don't steam them on just water. That's really kind of boring. Put something in it, give it some flavor, let it impart into it. So I'm gonna serve them with the chicken stock, so I wanna go ahead and cook them over the chicken stock. Don't let the wontons touch inside of here. They are a pasta dough. They will stick to each other. That's why we put the cabbage or the parchment paper in the bottom to keep them from sticking to the wonton steamer. But of course, we can't let them touch each other. So 10 to 12 minutes, we'll come back. If I could get the lid on. There we go. All right, we're just past the 10-minute mark. We're pushing 11 minutes. You can see there's a ton of steam still coming out. I just turned the burner off because it took a sneak peek. Sorry. If you can tell that the wonton wrappers are translucent and your cabbage looks like it's just been through war, you're probably right where you need to be. Turn off the heat first, okay? Steam burns could be the worst burn of your life. So just come in here, grab it, pull it off, okay? Obviously the liquid's still boiling. We're gonna use it, so that's not a problem. Pop the lid off. What I wanna share with you is you always make more than you need because you're gonna have 1 or 2 that go a little awry. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead, pull these beauties out, place them in a bowl. What I'm gonna do is kind of like a tortellini in brodo, which is an Italian soup, just because I like that kind of thing. So this chicken stock's gonna be a great way to do that. So again, I steamed it with the chicken stock. Now I'm gonna use the chicken stock. It's funny, chefs always do odd numbers. Drives me crazy because when we go out to eat, it's always in even numbers. But we're just gonna go ahead, I've got 6. Let's just put a number 7 in there. You can be choosy. Make sure you pick the pretty ones because you're going to be taking pictures of this, showing it to everybody, going, look what I just made. I'm switching. I'm getting this one. Looks better. Okay. Wow, that's hot. Don't do that at all. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and place those out. Do not allow your wontons to dry out. Very easy to do. So that's why in this preparation, I'm going to go ahead and put the stock over the top of them. You will get a very tough wonton skin if you allow them to dry out. So this is one of those things you either have to keep them under cover with a warm liquid until you're absolutely ready to serve them, or you have to serve them in a sauce or a broth or something that you'll have the ability to maintain the appearance and everything else that you're after. Okay, then I'm just gonna go ahead and garnish with some scallions. I'll tell you what, guys, I'll get you a close-up of that here in just a second. But here's our starting lineup. Think about it, right? We've got macaroni and cheese waffles. Crazy. We've got ourselves a macaroni and cheese barbecue grilled cheese sandwich, which, by the way, almost got me on MasterChef 10. More on that another day. But let me tell you, they called me either crazy or brilliant. Which do you think it was? Then, of course, I've got these great steamed wontons using some of the leftover pork, using some fresh ginger and some scallions. Don't worry, the cabbage made its way in there just through the outside. Kind of cool. So listen, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Of course, we love to hear from you on the social channels at Bearded Home Cook. If you make any of these or attempt anything, if you have any great ideas, tag me. I'd love to see it. Of course, we enjoy doing this with you. Go to the website, thebeardedhomecook.com, for all the tips and tricks. Of course, we make our own barbecue sauce. It's just pretty cool when you have somebody like Mike with Pig Fellas making this one. So feel free whenever you're using barbecue sauce to either support someone local making their own or make it yourself. I'll have the links on the website again, thebeardedhomecook.com. This was pretty easy, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like, food waste is a big deal. So if you can get a vacuum sealer and if you can use your stuff in a multitude of ways that keeps the family interested, why not? I mean, let's try to not waste as much food this year. Let's enjoy some different flavors from some different cultures and have some fun. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.